Oh, it's a beautiful day. Where did that weather come from? Happy Thursday, everybody. We are in real time. I know. When did all this live stuff happen? A lot of people just started taping and it just got live, all the way live. Everybody can't go live. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I hope you have a good day. Dr. Draper, J. Jackson.
Hello.
Jackson, well, hold on. How you
Jackson
spell it?
Jackson Rao is the pronunciation of my last name.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Jackson Rao.
Yep.
This is what I learned today. Things that you learned today, guys. We're going to be learning something actually that men have known for a while, but women, uh, you're in for a treat. Just sit back for a second. Dr. Dirk, before we get started, anything you want to say?
Yeah, just a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever people are watching from all over the world. It's good to see you guys. We've been flying solo and duo for a while, so it's good to have all of us back on the chicken
Absolutely.
box.
Good to
Absolutely.
be seen. Jasonorero. Is that it?
No, just
Jackson.
Jackson Rao.
Jackson, wow. Okay.
Rao.
I want to put an O on it. Like sure, black people like to put an O on
A little
everything.
extra.
Charlie O, and you got a friend with an O on the name of it. But welcome to the Chicken Box, guys. If you've never heard of us, we are a platform powered by the Afro American newspaper. Yes, 34?
30, almost 34.
Almost 134, right? You forget after 100, you just got the kudos. And we've been telling the great stories, inspiring, educating, and documenting history for people of color for a long time, not only here but now globally around the world. So welcome to the Chicken Box. But we called it the Chicken Box because this is where you get on your box and you tell your truth. Now we don't have to agree with you, but if you're not from the Baltimore area, you'll be like, why are you saying chicken box? We were talking to DC earlier. They got the chicken wings and the mambo sauce, but Baltimore, we have the four wings, fries, salt, pepper, ketchup in a chicken box. I think we have really hammered the chicken box home, and that's why the show is called Chicken Box. 'Cause originally, before the pandemic, we were going to be eating some chicken and having some great conversations. The chicken part didn't work out, but 7 or however many years later that we've been doing this show, we are still here. We have a special guest today. Jay, you want to introduce our special guest? I can't wait to
Absolutely.
get into this conversation.
Absolutely. Dr. Tamara Nall is the founder and CEO of Junia, a cultural movement transforming how mothers pass down identity, honor, and legacy to their daughters through intentional naming. Born from a deeply personal journey through fertility challenges and reflection on what endures beyond biology, Junia establishes the feminine equivalent of junior, a naming tradition that has been absent from our culture despite its obvious need. Through the Junia naming convention, certificates of legacy, naming ceremonies, and a growing registry, Dr. Nall is creating formal, visible way for mothers to transmit purpose and lineage to daughters regardless of circumstance. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. I'm so glad to be here on my
Doctor
chicken box.
Now, you ready? Don't make us hungry, Doctor. Now. So let's start from the start. How intentional naming shapes our daughter's future. What pushed you into this area and even to champion this area?
Exactly. So I think that any innovation, any solution, or most of them comes from a personal story. And so, as Jay mentioned in my bio, I was going through a time that included two very difficult parts of my life. One was I lost my mother. That was about 12 years ago. But sometimes, I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but sometimes it seems like 12 years ago, and sometimes it feels like this morning. And, I'd gotten married, and I just never envisioned having children without my mother there to be there. For my nephew, she was there, and my father was there. But she passed away unexpectedly. I just had a hard time. I actually was walking around like a zombie for 3 years. No one knew that because I was able to cover it up and mask it, but it was a part that I was going through. And then my husband and I were trying to have children, and cycle after cycle after cycle, we just could not get any viable embryos. And so then we considered donor eggs. And that was the inflection point where it was kind of like, families can be created in many different ways, but there was something about that DNA, that biological, that made me a little sad for a while. And in that grief, I was trying to find power through what could I do. And my husband and I agreed that if and when we had a daughter, that we would name her after me. And so that was the solution. So then I went on this whole journey of researching, okay, how can we formally do that? And there was absolutely nothing. And, we know Junior, and that's very common, but I could not believe that since the existence of time, there was no formal naming convention when a mother gives her daughter her full name. So I could complain about it. I could continue to be sad about it, but I decided to turn that grief and transform that grief into something powerful, and decided, well, I'll just create it myself. And that's what I did.
Man, oh man. Guys, did you hear that? Welcome to the Chicken Box. Welcome, Dr. Tamara Nall from Atlanta, now all the way up in the DMV, ATL. It's amazing, Dr. Draper, what grief can push you to and through.
But I'm curious. Thank you for sharing the backstory for that. When you say naming conventions, there are a lot of daughters who are named after their mothers. When you say naming convention, can you say a little bit more about what that means?
Exactly. It actually means that you as a mother are giving your first, middle, and last name to your daughter. So in fact, it's exactly like Junior. So when you name your daughter, and on the birth certificate, you would put first name, last name, or if you don't have a middle name, if you do, first, middle, and last, comma, Junia, Junia, or comma, JN, which is the abbreviation for Junia. And in that naming, and you are right, there have been daughters that have been named after their mothers. In fact, based on my research, there are about 30,000 in the US that are named after their mothers, but it doesn't have a formal name as the same designation as Junior. And that was the part that was missing. Of course, you have those that receive like the mother's first name, and then you make that the middle, etc. And even Arthur's even given the full name. But Junia is the world's first formal naming convention, and it's equivalent to Junior. And there was a lot of thought that was given into it. It couldn't, in my mind, it couldn't be something that was so far removed from Junior that it wouldn't be embraced and received. I wanted it to sound similar, because with consumer adoption, particularly for something that's so new, that you want to have an adoption rate that would do that. And I didn't want to overcomplicate it. I've gotten so many questions about different iterations and how it should go. You have your senior, you have your junior, you have your third, you have your fourth. It is exactly the same as when a son is named after his father.
Got it. Now, does it complicate when she gets married? How does that work?
Well, the Junia will always be a Junia, because you hold your mother's name. But absolutely, if you want to get married and change your last name, you will forever be considered a Junia legacy. And in some cultures, you do have sons that, it's not as common, but you do have sons that are juniors that change their last name, particularly as people are becoming a little bit open-minded. So it's not as if the Junia title will be taken away from you. In fact, as Jay mentioned, on our website, junialegacy.com, we have a registry. You can sign up for that registry, and where you're identifying the mother and the daughter. So you will always be considered a Junia, and you will become a Junia legacy.
Wow, I'm gonna let you jump in 5 seconds, Jay. Just the other day, we heard a person, as he was saying, as he was blending into another person's family, that his wife had asked if they could keep both of the last names, and then initially he said he was against it, but then he said after thinking about it, that the two families were becoming one. Why can't we keep both names? So to hear that in the same, span of 2 weeks is like, look, Junia is on the move, y'all. Better watch it. Watch out for it, especially y'all.
And you know
what's
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What's so interesting to me is I've had so many conversations with women who are pregnant or have recently had daughters or even have had daughters, and actually a lot of people support it. And I would say of the women whom I've spoken to, about 10% of them said that even their partner or their spouse said, hey, let's think about naming our daughter after you. And it was the mother herself that said, I don't want to be considered arrogant, or I don't want people to think something. And I challenged that. Like, I think there are very few situations where a man himself, when given the option to name his son after him, would consider himself arrogant for doing it. It's just commonplace. And so my thought is that Junia legacy, and my hope and our vision is that Junia legacy will be as commonplace as Junior. So when you're having a daughter, you consider naming her yourself like you would, a plethora of options.
I love it, Jay.
So a couple of things. I find this really fascinating. My co-host just mentioned someone on our staff with that story. My story is the same, right? My last name is, my birth and last name is Jackson. My wife's last name is Rao. And so we combined so that we all have the same name, and then our daughter has, our combined name as well.
Well, thank you,
by the way,
I was all confused this morning when I saw that.
Yeah, no worries. I can tell you long stories about calling to get the names changed, and they're like, well, you can hyphenate your names. Like, we don't want to hyphenate it. And they're like, but you're a guy. I'm like, yes, and it's not 1950. Like,
right.
It's very weird. A lot of that stuff is still baked into the system of like people's thoughts on it. That being said, I'm curious. I'm not a theologian by any means, but Junia is also considered in I guess Catholic doctrine, potentially a female apostle. Like,
that is correct.
Okay, I was wondering if is there a connection there as well, or there's just like happenstance for you?
There is an absolute connection there.
Okay.
So at some point, and we're starting that with planning, there will be a legislative journey that we'll have to take to get it formalized. People on their birth certificates right now can list it, but when you have to go into vital statistics, or you have to go into passport services, Social Security, and there's a drop down, there would be an issue. And so that meant that I had to create Junia in a way that would work regardless of your political beliefs, your religious beliefs, etc. So the people who might not be as religious, I'm not going to say spiritual because that's totally different, but might not be as religious, probably don't care about that. But for those who do, they would. And the way for me to break that mindset is to have something that was relevant. And so I wanted there to be some biblical roots in it as well. So you are correct, Jay. Thank you for pointing that out. Junia is a female apostle that is mentioned one time in the Bible, Romans 16:7. And Apostle Paul said she was outstanding among the apostles. And she was imprisoned. At this time, they had just gotten released from prison. She was in prison with the male apostles. And to me, I was like, wow. Not only is Junia very similar to Junior, we have biblical context there, and she was only mentioned one time, but yet she is studied among the theologians as being outstanding. And what kind of legacy and what kind of impact did she have to only be mentioned once, but to still hold great strength in the Bible?
Right. Okay. I was just like, wow, that's kind of a like an interesting connection. But okay, so it was purposeful. And what brought me to that was the question of like formalized legality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you guys this is a big part of, I have to imagine this is a big part of what you guys are doing, which your organization is working on, is to sort of get this on the books that people can do this.
Correct.
and it be,
Correct.
at least, recognized,
Yes.
like on passports and things like that. I think that's interesting.
Yes.
My other question to you is, we mentioned in your bio, about it regardless of circumstance, right? Is like, what does that mean? Does that mean that even if you have, let's say you have a daughter and you decide, you hear about this, your organization, as we're hearing about it today, and you go, I would love to be able to add Junia to my daughter's name, even though it's not the same as my name, because I didn't think about that, 10 years ago when I had my daughter. Is Junia a thing that you could add on, even though it's not, you don't have the same first, middle, and last name, or what is your feeling on that?
I mean, the truth of the matter is people can do whatever they want to. So if she doesn't have your name, absolutely you can name Junia. But the core intent and the heart of Junia, and to be recognized as a Junia, the daughter would have to have her mother's full name.
Okay, so it's you're aiming to be a direct.
It is absolutely
a direct one-for-one with Junia. Okay, now I just didn't know, just because since this is a new organization, is there sort of like, we'll let you in on a legacy kind of thing, or like, I was just trying to understand. Okay.
No, it is, and we're not calling. I had to formalize it through an entity, yes, but we're a movement, and that's what I call it, versus like an organization. We are a movement, and it's new. It's interesting for people. Most people whom I've spoken to have embraced it. I haven't gotten any pushback from anyone. To be a Junia legacy. So those 30,000 daughters who are named after their mother, as we find them, we actually have a Junia medallion, which, goodness, I should have grabbed it, a Junia medallion, where you can have, I will personally come to that daughter wherever she's located and present her officially with a medallion, and she would be considered a Junia legacy.
Interesting.
I love it.
I do too.
We've
been talking about this from the mom's perspective. How have daughters responded? Are there any testimonies from daughters? Are they all very, very young now? Nobody's old enough to say much about it, or what do you think?
Well, we did have a video and photo shoot for Junia, and there was a daughter there. Now, she was not fully named after her mother, the full name, but actually, I think she was fourth generation of having the middle name of her mother, and then her grandmother, and her great-grandmother, and her great-great. So that was there. And we actually interviewed, you could feel a sense of pride just by having one of the names, And so I can imagine that the level of pride that a daughter would have if she had her full name, because your name is pretty much the first thing, like, formal that happens to you when you're born, and it tells you where you came from, and your history, your legacy. In some ways, and for many people, it kind of, in their mind, signals where they're going to go. Though depending on what that answer is, I wouldn't necessarily stick to that if it's not positive, but it is one of the first things. And so I have yet to personally meet someone who has the full name that is alive. Now, we did have a ceremony of one of my friend's husband, whose mother was a Junia. And so we then presented his wife with the Junia medallion to set her as the Junia legacy symbolically. But from the conversation that I've had where they even have the middle name, there's so much pride there.
So I think I'm a Junia.
Oh, are you serious?
Third generation Junia.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
But not all the names. My mother had all the names.
Okay.
I just got the first name, right? So
got it.
Third generation with the first name, but she and my great aunt both had the same first and middle.
Well, got it. So therefore,
and last. So if they have three names alike.
So the full name.
Right, the full name. Right.
Yes. So in that case, I would, and we should talk about this offline, would love to meet you wherever you are and give you a Junia medallion on behalf and symbolically for your mother.
Yeah, my mother's deceased now, but yeah.
Yes.
So okay. Oh, good. So you hear that, guys? I'm going to get a medallion. Did you all?
And I want to see this medallion. It looks like it's beautiful. If you just tuned in, y'all,
You have to wear it on every episode from now
There
on.
you
Okay.
we're talking about Born into Legacy. We're with a great conversation with Dr. Tamara Nall of intentionally naming daughters, just like the fellas have been naming Junia. Come here, Junior. What you gonna do? You know, it's been Junior for, and some people, some of the guys don't even want to be a junior. You know, but you don't have much choice when they say this is your name until you get older and you can change it. You're gonna be Junior. Matter of fact, they're not even gonna call you something. They're gonna call you Little C or
CJ.
David or something. You know, or everything, but you know, and sometimes you even adopt your middle name. Because I got a friend, he's like, my first name is, I'm not even gonna say it, but he's like, just call me Craig because I don't want to be called the other name. That's my father's name. That's not me. I'm like, wow. So anyway, I digress. Let's see how the ladies handle Junia. Is it gonna be like the third, the second, the first?
Yes.
Okay.
There's senior, junior, third, fourth. It is the naming convention. Is
So how does the naming convention go for Junia?
so in terms of how do you name your daughter?
No, I mean, you know how with the senior.
Oh, okay. So in this case with Dr. Draper, her so your mother was named after her mother.
No, after her aunt.
Okay, her aunt. So in that case, in terms of Junia, the senior would have been the aunt, the mother would have been the junior, and had Dr. Draper had her full name of her mother, she would have been the third.
I've been the third. So what they did was my mother officially added second to her name.
Ah.
That's what she did.
That's amazing.
She didn't know about Junia.
She was an innovator before her time.
Right. And she had been married multiple times and decided to drop all those names. And she went back to her given name, which was exactly like her aunt who had no children.
That's beautiful.
Sons or daughters, right.
And just in that short snippet that you've told us, like, what great story is that? And the legacy of all of that. I mean, it's just amazing. It gives me chills, actually.
I was all in the wedding, you know, because I was thinking of Junia, like everybody gets married in June. I didn't know where we were going today, y'all. This is the Chicken Box, powered by the Afro-American newspaper. We're having a great conversation about an innovative idea. And they're saying that the next generation is a little more open. Jay said some of the former generation, they got baked in ideas and they stick them with them till they die. They didn't take them things to the grave because that's where they get ready to go. Straight all the way to the grave with some of those ideas, like the typewriter. Anyway, I digress. Dr. Hall, what I'm sorry, Dr. Nall. Well, I was saying, I got to get Southern because you're from ATL. So if I say Dr. Nall, I'm going to always remember to call you Nall. So Dr. Tamara, what has been your biggest challenge with this movement?
The biggest challenge is formalizing it, because that takes strategy and that takes planning. I have spoken to a number of different lobbyists who specialize in different industries. The good news to that is that they're telling me that it should resonate across the aisle in terms of being able to pass it once we're put forth. We have to add it to an omnibus. And I think the most challenging is trying to have all of the individual conversations that I need to have to get it passed and to get it formalized. Like I said, people can go ahead and name their daughter now. It can be comma Junia, comma JN, and it's fine to put it on birth certificates, register with our registry, please. But then when it comes to a drop down, if it's not there, and it won't be, right, because JN isn't as formal yet, then that is the biggest challenge. And to have lobbyists, that takes money and resources, and it's me and a few other supporters that are really, really driving this. And so I'm being able to schedule and have these conversations. But also on the flip side, the good news is that it won't cost anything for this legislation. I've been told that it is just a simple kind of directive to add it to vital statistics and Social Security and passport services as a part of an option, and that won't cost anything. So that is like the light at the end of the tunnel from the advice that I've been given from lobbyists.
Yeah, it feels like such an obvious thing.
Hmm.
You know, it's one of those things where you don't think about it, you know, or most people don't think about it, especially from a male perspective, because, you know, we're maybe a little myopic in our views on this. You know, like, change your name just because that's how it's always been. Okay, like, it's very odd. But it seems like such an obvious thing when someone like yourself says, hey, why don't we have this? And you're like, yeah, that's true. Why don't we have this? And then probably when you get to lobbyists, when they get to, you know, members of Congress and things like that, there's probably going to be that moment of like, oh, right, it's kind of silly that we don't have this. And then, you know, you kind of, to your point of like, this should be an easily bipartisan issue. One, it doesn't cost anything, so there's no argument. And two, I mean, I guess there's some people who would just be like, well, that's not what we've always had. And it's like, okay, we didn't always have cars, you know, but like, but it just seems like a thing that everyone should just be like, yeah, I'm on board for this. So I hopefully it's as smooth as getting something passed through Congress can be.
Yes.
Because I would love to see that be done formally, just from the perspective of giving people another option of passing down your legacy. I mean, I think that's the entire point of the junior thing. It's like, I want to pass my name down to my son when I go. Okay, you know, women would like to do the same. I mean, we live in a more egalitarian society than we ever have in the U.S., at least. So, like, why not honor that by doing something like this? Makes sense.
Right. And true to the conversation that we've had earlier, in my mind, this isn't a new behavior. It's just a new recognition that deserves attention.
Yeah, no, I think that's correct. I do want to ask, you know, obviously a lot of this is comes from your legacy of your mom. You mentioned that at the top of the show. What was her impact on you? I mean, obviously she's your mother, so there's, you know, just sort of the inherent impact. But what was it about losing her or your connection to her that just, you were like, this name, you know, this idea just kind of jumped out, like, this has got to be the thing that I'm, like, leaving. You left your sort of partnership track at Booz Allen Hamilton. And you're like, this is what I have to do. What was that moment for you, that, like, the sort of aha moment for you?
Yeah, it was around, I mean, my mother was, I call her an angel on earth. I mean, she was just amazing. She never met a stranger. She was so nice. I actually grew up as a preacher's kid, so she was like the first lady. And, you know, there can be a lot of drama in church. And no matter what happened, she would always I mean, somebody could have slapped her in the face and she would have greeted them with prayer and something like that. I mean, I'm pretty sure she had a fight and drive in there, and I never really saw that. But she was just so elegant and so nice. She was very philanthropic. She would have given her last penny to somebody. And I had the beautiful opportunity to see her help raise my nephew, who was really the only grandbaby in the family. And it was just so beautiful. And he was just as devastated when she passed away as we were. I mean, he poo-pooed his mother. He was like, you are whatever. Grammy is the love of my life. And so it was so beautiful to watch. I really wanted that for my own children. And, you know, in my mind, my grandparents were, you know, they were older. So, you know, you kind of expect that at one day they will pass away and go on to glory. But with her and losing a mom so young, I couldn't even believe it. And then her mom was almost 100 when she passed away. And her mom's mom, her grandmother, my great grandmother, was almost 100. And the fact that she passed away at 67, it was just too much. And the realization that she wouldn't be there to help raise my children was just way, way, way too much. But the real impetus was from my fertility issues and the fact that, at least up until that point, I could not have a child with my DNA. And it was just a way to kind of take that pain and create something.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, just as a side note for folks who don't know, 1 in 8 couples in the United States deal with fertility issues. So it is much more common than you likely realize. So I mean, I cannot imagine that it doesn't put a major stamp on you in regards to also losing your mom in that same time. What is the time frame between your mom, if you don't mind me asking, your mom passing and you having like going through the fertility stuff? Is that pretty close together?
Let's see. I would say it was probably 2 years from.
Okay, so,
I mean, my fertility journey has been long.
Sure.
So
Sure.
yeah, it was about.
So yeah, so they were really almost running in parallel.
Yeah, and I really respect all of you for. I can see the reverence and the empathy or sympathy that you're showing me, but through my pain and my story, my hope is that I'll be able to help others. Number one with Junia and naming, but then there's also these other important factors. You know, women these days, and this was my case. I was so focused on my career. I was so focused on my investments and my entrepreneurial ventures, etc. I mean, I was successful everywhere else. Why wouldn't I be able to easily start a family? Like, no one told me that as you get older, your egg quality decreases. No one ever told me. If that was the case, when I lived in New York, I would have frozen my eggs, paid for it, and eaten ramen noodles every day for like 3 years to pay for it because it is very expensive. But no one told me. And then by the time we got there, it just wouldn't quite work out. But then I prayed about it, and God told me that my parents, particularly my mother and my father, I love him dearly. I'm a daddy's little girl. That they gave me more than just DNA. But they gave me and they taught me how to be a good person, how to give back to my community and really care about that, how to critically think through things, how to not accept no for an answer and you just got to do it. They close that door, you go through the window, and how to, make lemonade out of lemons and all that kind of stuff. And so while my children wouldn't have my DNA, my daughter could definitely have my name.
That's a powerful statement.
Thank you.
I love it. Go ahead, Jay. Dr. J.
No, go ahead, Dr. Draper.
For me, that was a mic dropping, get on the box kind of statement. Because what I wanted to observe, but you said it yourself, and Jay, it was implicit in your question. A lot of times we don't know how to find a coping mechanism either. Not that you did it just to cope, but you realize that you could turn your energy to other channels, and people go through life. You know what they say, life be life, and
yes,
math is not mathing, but life be life, and sometimes and everybody goes through something in their journey. So I think that's encouraging to people to say, okay, yes, you had a 3-year period of recovery. I'm gonna call it a period of recovery, but you came out of that with something very, very positive on the other side. That seems like it's really fueling your passion.
Right, absolutely. And I know she's proud of me. I know she's very, very proud of me. So that makes me, I can feel that. I can feel that in this movement. And it's something that she would have encouraged me to do. My family is on board with it. So it's pretty exciting. It really, really is exciting.
Well, the way you describe her, she sounds like she was a dynamic person. And they say to all of us, we probably have more of our parents in us than we realize.
You know what we forget, guys? We forget, especially when you know God, that to be absent from here, the God is happy and it's joyful when you're loved. We're the ones who have a hard time separating from the physical and the flesh, and then another door is closed, but really it's really an opening of another door. It can't open because you keep peeking in the other door because it's not shut. So as soon as it shuts, then all of a sudden now you can see down this other door, and that was the door that God had you to see. So you didn't know how many people, Junias, that you're going to end up eventually impacting is going to be greater than probably you could never have 30,000 kids and give them a medallion.
That's a good way to look at it.
You're going to be the junior godmother. How about that?
I
They have a new godmama that they didn't even know was even thinking about it. So,
right, right.
that's
Maybe
the
Dr. Nall.
story.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
I'm done.
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, so everybody, we that's called the the pause that you don't like on the podcast because it is live when we're all thinking at the same time when nobody says anything. But I was done. That's what I was pretty much
Oh,
trying.
okay. Well, no, but I was going to ask Dr. Nall her opinion of this. Names carry weight as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if your name is Jackson Rao, you know, that's a weight because Jay's now carrying and has been his name, his family name, his wife's family name. When you carry your parents' names, I'm carrying my mother's name, which I did not like that first name as a child. I thought that was a way too old name for, you know, that's a name you had to grow into, Francis. Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's a long story about names, but names carry weight. Can you say a little bit about that, the weight that names carry?
Yeah, and I think that's true. I mean, not every family situation is perfect or positive, and I think we would be remiss to kind of talk through that. And then there's some who are like activists. Like in my case, you know, like I said, I grew up a preacher's kid. I hated it, you know. And with my mother being the first lady, if I had carried her name, I might have been like, I hate this. In fact, I never want to marry a preacher, or I never want to do all of that. But I kind of view that with anything, whether you're named after somebody or not, the weight of, as you were mentioning, Dr. Draper, the weight of life happens. And it's about how we take what we're going through, how we take those experiences, how we take that weight and use it for good in some way and to bless others and to be a story for others. You know, there, even when it comes to like career and the professional choices that we make and what we're going to be, etc. There are so many people or little youth and kids that don't even know what the possibilities are until they are able to meet somebody and say, oh, I can be that. I could be that teacher. I could be that lawyer. You know, I could be that electrician or whatever it is. And I think that that's the same. Like having a name and knowing the history and the legacy of that name in my mind opens up the possibilities. And in that discovery, if there's pain or weight, then my hope is that we find healing or we find a way to transform it into good, into positivity, and how we can impact the world in whatever big or small way.
Absolutely. You got a couple fans out there, Dr. Nall. They said you good people. I don't know your name, but it says LinkedIn user. So shout out to you, LinkedIn user, for tuning in. This is the Pick and Box powered by the 133-year-old oldest Black media family-owned media company in I'm gonna say the world until you refute it, in the world, okay? And go to afro.com, get a digital subscription. We also have still a legacy. If you really like to hold paper, you can get both delivered right to your door anywhere in the world. And it makes good gifts too. So that is not a shameless plug. That is the plug, because we need to plug in, especially people of color. We need to plug in with each other and support each other, because nobody's going to tell our story like we do. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So this is the time when we get on the box, everybody, and you give your final words about today's intentional naming of that shapes the daughter's future. Intentional. You got to be intentional about this naming situation, and it's that shapes the daughter's future. All of the Francises I know, they turned out really great. So I know you didn't like that name coming up. Francis is a good name. I wanted to go somewhere. You ever know one name that's always in trouble in school?
David.
I'm not trying to say, but I'm not trying to call him out. They'd be like,
It's
"Hey,
David.
you said my name."
It's always David.
Tyrone. I was like, it was always Tyrone was getting in. People think about Tyrone and wait a minute, Tyrone was getting in trouble, wasn't he?
Probably.
Anyway, I'm going somewhere else. So I'm gonna get on the box first. Dr. Nall from the ATL, now up in the DMV. Thank you for following your passion and your calling, because you could have You could have chased, or you had already caught all of the big money and the big fish. But the big money can come different ways. I don't know where that came from. God said the big money was already in the big fish, right? There it is. So it doesn't mean that, and this movement is gonna create a masterpiece. So I say just keep pushing forward. You have support here at the Afro. And thanks for sharing your story. It's a wonderful one. And you're now an official archive member of the 133-year-old Afro Archives.
Thank
Jay
you.
Jackson,
Okay.
one
Well, one, thank you, Dr. Nall, for coming in. We really appreciate it. It was an enlightening conversation, really, really interesting. Again, it feels like the most obvious thing in the world, and I cannot believe we don't do this. Obvious but revolutionary in a lot of ways, right? I like to quote people who are much better at this than I am, and with that, I'm going to quote Judith Butler, who says, quote, "We are named by others, and in that naming, we are given a place in the world," which I think is important, right? Your idea of naming being legacy and things like that, you get to carry on the power and the strength of the person that you're named after. And for you, you're doing that in part because of your mother. And I think the reason that you're doing it also shines a light on why it should be done, right? Like your story in and of itself is emblematic of why this idea should exist for women. So keep doing what you're doing. I hope to see this announced, that you can have Junia on your on your formal government documents, and people will know, like, hey, I remember that lady talking about that. that was her movement, and I think that's a we're talking about legacy, but pardon my French, that is a hell of a legacy for you.
Thank you.
To be able to accomplish that. I think you're doing really amazing work. So thank you for joining us.
Is that French, Jay? No, I'm just kidding. Anyway,
Maybe.
Dr. Draper, you now on the box. Oh, shout out to CJ Bay. That looks like a Poly 84 guy.
Okay. So Dr. Nall, let me add my thanks for you joining us today. Let me say thanks to everybody who's watching on today. We have people who are watching it now live and people who will come back and watch it later. We have a couple of speaking of legacy viewers who are here every Thursday with us. So nearly every Thursday. So we thank you for tuning in. So what an important topic. I think it's liberating also for women to have that choice, right? To really formalize it, legalize it, just like a junior. Why not? We take that for granted. I come from a family where every single person's name means something tied to, or is tied to someone in the family legacy. So my father and mother named me Toni. My grandfather said, "What kind of name is that? It's not in the Bible, and nobody has that name." So they actually changed it. I didn't know it till I got my first passport, and it was crossed out. Yes. So, but you grow to understand as you mature how important it is. And I think it's important for girls, especially to see that connection and to be able to say, yeah, you can be a junior or a senior, but guess what? I'm a junior. I have this after my name, and it's legal, it's accepted. But even if it's never legal, which I think it will be, Jay, I agree with you. I don't know why it would take so long and what the big deal would be.
Right. That
still gives a sense of pride. So kudos to you, for just your effort and work in this area. And I'm looking forward to my medallion. Okay, but and I did not name my daughter after me. I think I'm the last one in the Francis line. But you probably making somebody think about it, for the next time. So I would imagine people can skip a generation, and still add it on, for future generations. So thank you so much for what you're doing. All the best to you in getting this done. You've been working at this for how long now? When did you?
We became official last year, March 1st, 2025.
Okay, March 1st. Okay, well, happy anniversary. You've made it through the first year, and so all the best in the years to come. And I am off the box.
Dr. Draper, before I let Dr. Nall get on the box, you made me think of something. How about the ladies or the girls that are named after their dads?
Well, that's nice too. There are some. There are many. There are many. There are many.
And they'll put an A on it, or they'll put something on it, or you know, what I mean, they'll doctor it up. It's like, where'd you get that name from? I'm named after my daddy. Anyway, I'm not going to champion that, so don't worry about it. So you are now getting ready to get official on the box, and by the time you're done, it will not be the Hall of Fame anymore. It will be the Nall of Fame, ladies and gentlemen. So, Dr. Tamara, you are now on the box.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to say thank you for inviting me. This has been a wonderful conversation. All the listeners for tuning in all of the time. I want to say a couple of things. The first is you never know why things are going to happen. I literally have chills. There were a couple of moments where I wanted to break out in tears, particularly when I found out that I will have the opportunity to formally give Dr. Draper a medallion. Like, who knew I would join this, and then that would happen next. And so that's actually amazing. And to be able to register your mom in the registry, etc., will be amazing. I want to say that this is a movement that's not only for mothers, it's for fathers, it's for people who support. So when you are about to have a daughter, my only ask is that you consider naming your daughter after the mother. And it's up to the men to help support the cause. This isn't just our movement. We got to have that support from it. And then I want to say something else, because part of my journey was around fertility. If you are early professional and you are busy, freeze your eggs because, career will work out. All the other things in life will work out. Might not be the journey or the path you thought it would be, but it will work out. But what we cannot change is our biological eggs. And so freeze them and consider it to be insurance for the future if that is in your vision to do.
Insurance. Yep. That's what we're talking about, y'all. Insurance. Have you gotten your insurance? That's going to be the next show, Dr. Nall.
Okay.
We're not doing too many more GoFundMes, guys. All right. So get your insurance in order and your things for your family and your legacy in order. This has been another great show. Thanks for tuning in. As always, call a senior. Let them know you're thinking about them. Matter of fact, drop by. Matter of fact, send them some groceries. Matter of fact, just do a random act of kindness. They love to hear from you besides just the holidays. They're looking forward to your voice. Help them out with technology. Don't text them. Unless they super tech savvy, but still, FaceTime at least. Come on. I'm not camera ready. Yes, you are. They're so happy to see you. You don't know what. I don't know how men feel about it. I still feel a little funny when a man FaceTimes me, but that's just my dad. I guess I could live with him, but his face is all the way up to the camera. Hey, back up a little bit, buddy. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that. Y'all have a blessed day, and until we see each other again. Asia said her dad has a flip phone. They know what they're doing. All those men with the flip phone, they like, I'm gonna keep the flip phone. It's a special code, the flip phone code. We'll talk about that on another show. Until next time, guys. Thanks again, Dr. Tamara Nall. We're here for all of the Junia news. Have a great day. Bye-bye.